We're on.
So this is something that you've asked me about multiple times, so I decided to do more research on it, which is Ferret Vaccines.
Let's see how good I am to you.
So first we're going to talk about rabies. So a little background information. The virus rabies enters the body through a wound or via mucous membranes. It then travels quickly along the neural pathways into the central nervous system and later to other organs. It is really rare in ferrets, mostly because ferrets are like indoors. You don't really see many ferrets running around outside. And since they are so small, if they do get into contact with a rabid animal, they're most likely not going to survive that fight.
So it's self-limiting. Okay, so now that brings up the question, where are ferrets from originally? I know that, you know, they're maybe pets and they're indoor now, but where in the world are ferrets from? Do you know? If somebody has a hand over here.
There's like a European polecat. It's very similar to the domestic
Okay,
ferret.
and they think it's an offshoot of the European
There's
polecat.
also black-footed ferrets out west in the U.S.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if they were
Yeah.
necessarily descended, but they're
Mm-hmm.
similar looking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, okay, so this picture,
I just got it online.
yeah, you got it online, but is that a rabbit
I don't
ferret?
know, but it looks like it.
Or one that, this is Halloween coming up right there. Okay. Okay.
So the rabies vaccine, if a ferret has it, it's untreated, it will be fatal. It's mostly required by the law to get your ferret vaccinated with the rabies vaccine. All ferrets should be vaccinated against rabies at 12 weeks of age, then annually. Some reactions to the vaccine are like facial puffiness, diarrhea, vomiting, lethargy, fevers, itching, and sometimes they just like faint, collapse. This right here is the rabies vaccine, and it's manufactured by Muriel. This rabies vaccine, it's like not species specific. It's just to all species: the ferret, cat, dog, sheep, cow, horse.
Good,
so
good.
it's just
So
like-
this is like multi-animal, I mean, across species.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't go yet. Look at that, killed virus. You know, like some vaccines are killed, like this would be probably always killed because it's so lethal, but you know there's some vaccines for viruses that are like modified live. And you got to be careful because there have been instances where the company makes the modified virus, the person read the instructions wrong and they were bottling up live native virus. Have you ever heard of that? And then they vaccinate the animal and then the animal comes down with a disease. I should maybe find that, maybe one of our, because so there's been mistakes made. And this one, it's so lethal that you don't want to make any mistakes. So I think no one would, in their right mind probably would use a modified live virus because then, you know, there might be some live virus come through. So I thought that was interesting. And then the other thing about these reactions, what's the reaction likely due to? Because most vaccines have like the antigen, right? The antigen here is the rabies virus that's killed, but then a bigger part of the liquid is something else.
Is it preservative?
Well, preservatives, and there's a general name for all that other stuff.
Is it the adjuvant?
Adjuvants. And that's usually what causes the reaction. Because my puppies are going through shots and, you know, Dr. Birch is now the veterinarian. She used to be in my class, and her and I talk a lot. And I go, okay, what if these puppies react to their second shot? They had lepto in the vaccine this time. And you know, what you were reading right there, that's basically what she told me. And she goes, and I go, it's probably due to the adjuvant. And she goes, yeah, it's usually the adjuvant that causes the reactions. And so then actually, when she was in vet school, they were introduced to some vaccine for puppies that had less reactions because they use a different adjuvant. So you got to remember, just not all vaccines are the same because company A will use an adjuvant with preservatives and other things in there. Because see, an adjuvant really is made to cause an irritation. You get a better response if it's irritated, then the immune cells come more. Rebecca, what do you got?
So, if I'm remembering correctly, kind of based on what you were saying before, with some viruses are given as like a modified live version. I I've heard at some points of there being cases that if it still has like the virulent factor in it, that it can actually turn back into like the full virus, even if it's been like
Even if it's
modified.
been modified, okay. I wouldn't doubt that at all, knowing how viruses work and mutate and stuff like that. Yeah, so you gotta be very careful. But you can kind of see where this is so lethal that I bet you they just make sure it's killed. But it's really interesting how they make some of these modified viruses. Like sometimes they'll grow the virus at an elevated temperature and it makes it wacko, and then it's still good for a vaccine. There's all these things. Back to you, kiddo.
Another one is Canine Distemper in ferrets. So Canine Distemper virus is a very contagious, fast-acting disease that affects many different body systems in ferrets, including the respiratory, gastrointestinal, and central nervous systems. It is the most common and deadliest viral infection in ferrets. Symptoms will occur 7 to 10 days after contracting the virus. Some symptoms are sneezing, coughing, vomiting, diarrhea, brown crust on the face and lid, which is basically what this picture is showing. Hardening and swelling of the skin along the nose and the foot pads. You can probably see a little bit on the nose. That looks kind of gross. Canine distemper primarily affects dogs, but it can affect other animal species as well, like a ferret. Other than transmission via direct contact with an infected animal, the virus can become airborne and spread through the air.
So then Benny is vaccinated for rabies, and then he's also vaccinated for with canine distemper vaccine. Okay.
I think someone had a question back
I just was gonna ask if they, like, for this one, if they were legally, like, required to get.
Oh,
No.
legally for distemper?
No.
No.
Rabies is
Is the legal one?
Yeah.
Okay.
but this one said it's like the most common and deadliest
Yeah,
one.
this is
that
common.
one's very
And this probably can't go to humans. I'm not totally familiar with canine distemper, but probably very hard for a human to get it. But then, of course, rabies, easy for humans to get rabies. So that's where the law comes in, probably.
So the way this works, from what I've heard from veterinarians and other people who know more about this than I do, I can get it, but I won't show any of the symptoms. I'll just kind of like carry it on me,
You'll be
and I
a
can give it to my
carrier.
ferret.
Yeah, okay.
And since I work with a lot of dogs now, it was highly recommended that I get it as soon as possible, and I did. For
Oh,
Benny.
that you get him vaccinated
Yeah,
as soon
okay.
as possible.
That I get-
You're not vaccinated for
No.
canine distemper. Just trying to get it clear.
So the vaccine, you would first get it for your ferret at 6 to 8 weeks, then you'll get it at 10 to 12, then at 14 to 16 weeks of age, then you would give it yearly, and this one is ferret specific or like species specific. So it was called PureVax Ferret Distemper, and also it's also made by Muriel, and this is kind of what it looks like.
Okay, so then they do have a specific
Yeah.
ferret distemper, but the last picture was for canine, right? Or did you have a picture of the vaccine, the last?
No, that was
No,
just-
that was just what you had up there, okay. So they do have one made for ferrets, okay.
Mhm. So the rabies is not species
Yeah,
dependent, it's
right.
just for all of them, and then the canine distemper one is species
Is
dependent.
made
So there's
for-
like one for cats, there's one for dogs, there's one for
Okay,
ferrets.
okay.
Yeah, that is why I got Benny vaccinated for rabies when I went home. And then when I was at home, the vet told me we don't carry the one for ferrets.
Right.
So when I came up here, I had to look for an exotic vet.
Right. Because if you're not an exotic vet, you wouldn't have this in the refrigerator because it's gonna expire probably before you ever use it, and it's just
Yeah.
money lost. Whereas the rabies, you're always using it, so. Excellent. Other questions? See how we're honing in on facts and details? Because that's how we learn. Anybody have any other comments, questions? If not, we'll see you guys